can we build new generation, right? That's what we're trying to do. The new generation is working to come online. It's experiencing some significant regulatory delays. Just for context, there's about 180,000 megawatts of generating capacities online. There's about 280,000 megawatts asking to come online. It's stuck in what's called the interconnection queue. We don't need to get into that. FERC has an order 2023 that's trying to address it. The outlook of that is mixed to positive, but it will take some time. Just in October, PJM announced that they were going to try to fast track the biggest 100 projects. So they're asking for those to be submitted, I want to say January, February coming up. It's unclear whether they'll be able to participate in the auction just from a timeline perspective from the next auction, just because timelines are so tight. So at least we're trying on the new generation front. The other thing is, will the rules change? So the rules change every year, but we mentioned that there were two significant ones this year. State PJM to revert some of those changes. PJM looked at these for 6 and 3 years respectively. So they just announced Monday that they're not inclined to revert any of those changes for the subsequent auction, but immediate auction, but they would look at that potential for the auction following. I think that's a delay tactic that is essentially a soft no. I don't think there's really any meat on that bone. The other comment here is about retiring units. So to break this down briefly, when a generating unit in PJM wants to retire, it has to request permission to do so. PJM then looks at that and assesses whether the grid will maintain its reliability if that unit comes offline. Some units are allowed to retire right away, and some are required to run for a little bit longer until other generation can be brought online. So those must-run units are currently not allowed to participate in the auction. Consumer advocates have petitioned PJM to allow those to participate, and the idea had enough merit that PJM delayed their auction to review it. So we were hoping today to results. So there was an auction scheduled for December. That auction scheduled for this month is now pushed to July of next year. On Monday, PJM's board indicated they were receptive to this request. They had enough wiggle language in, we will accept this if the conditions are met, that we still have to await kind of what the formal proposal looks like, and they have to get it approved through FERC. So that some of this is kind of a wait and see on the demand on the supply side of things. But I think, Courtney, you're going to talk to us a little bit now about the demand side.
Yep, absolutely. So we all know that there are some types of businesses that are especially sensitive to electricity costs. Data centers are one of the major ones, and I'm sure all of you are hearing a lot of news about this lately because it's been getting a lot of press, how data centers are driving an increased demand for electricity that's creating some challenges throughout the United States. It's possible that as energy prices rise in certain geographies, the high intensity energy users will pivot their plans to build facilities in those regions and actually relocate to a lower demand and lower cost location. This will change the supply and demand fundamentals in any particular geography and can definitely have an impact on overall grid costs. So the key takeaway here is that prices are likely to come back down, but how soon is yet to be determined, and it's something that we're closely monitoring. Ben, anything else that our wise energy buyers should be aware of?
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. There is one more image we want to review before we get to the Q&A. By the way, on that note, if you do have questions, please enter them, and I think you should be able to upvote questions as well. So the graph here shows the 3 largest components of your energy supply bill: your energy, your capacity, your transmission, and it shows the market spend. So how much money changed hands in PJM for a given year. And the headlines have been focusing on this capacity issue from 2024, this middle section, from 2024 to 2025. So we went from just over $2 billion to over $14.5 billion will be spent in the capacity market. I think it's useful to look at the context of those numbers to say this yellow section going back from 2017 to 2022, tended to be in that $6 to $10 billion range. So the two felt out of line low, and the 14 feels out of line high. Certainly, the 2 to 14 is a significant year-over-year jump, but I think putting those numbers in context is useful. It's also useful looking at this in context with how energy moves, right? So we had the COVID lows of 2020. In 2022, we had Russia invade Ukraine, which sent commodity markets globally into a bit of a turmoil. So from 21 to 22, we saw energy go from 30 billion to 60, or a $30 billion increase. And then the next year it fell $35 billion. So as much as it is very important to look at how capacity moves, it's actually important to consider all of these components in energy procurement strategy. And then it's also difficult with this volatility to really speak to what these changes might mean for you as a specific listener. It's going to depend on your situation. If you signed in 2020 during the COVID lows and you had a 5-year contract, you might be coming out of that now and looking at a renewal that is close to double what you were paying recently, which could be quite shocking. On the flip side, if you're coming off of a 2022 contract that you signed for 3 years, you might be looking at a small cost savings. So the first key takeaway here is that your energy strategy is really important. You need to be proactive to manage that, to help soften this volatility and withstand those changes, but also to try to achieve the lowest cost possible. And the second is the answer I just gave of kind of it depends isn't very satisfying. And so we want to offer each listener here a specific analysis to their unique situation. So if you are an existing Environ client, reach out to your rep. We'll talk to you about what these changes mean for you. If you are not an existing Environ client, if you spend more than $100,000 per year on energy, contact us. There's a form on our website. There's information here at the end of the webinar. And we want to talk to you about what your specific situation is, your strategy, your load profile, your load shape, so you can be prepared to be planning for these cost increases that are coming in June 2025.